Hi, everyone, and welcome to the 85th episode of Dragon Quest Slime Time, a Dragon's Den podcast. This is Pendy.
And this is Bururian. Today, we're talking about Yakuza Like a Dragon for this episode. You and I have both played the game, but I think we might need some help.
Ooh, that's a great idea. Let's call in some pound mates. I've got some on speed dial.
Your pound mates? I don't think that's necessarily a good idea.
Whoa, time to call a friend! Ha! Yarr, you daft scallywags, what you be needin'? These yellow bellow Yakuza seem to be up to no good. We should make them walk the plank. Yarr! Well, howdy there, neighbors. You need to wrestle up some Yakuza, do ya? Ooh-wee!
Me Gollum! Me smash Yakuza!
I think they might have the wrong idea. Let me try one of mine. Beep, boop, 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 boop.
Hey guys, you rang? I've put well over 100 hours into that game. I'll help you out.
Oh, thank the goddess. Someone who can actually help out with this episode.
Today, we are going to look back on our time with Yakuza Like a Dragon and what we look forward to with its sequel, Infinite Wealth.
Like a Dragon isn't actually a Dragon Quest game, you say. Might as well be, though. But we'll discuss its Dragon Quest roots and direct references.
In addition to that, we've brought on another member from the Dragon Quest community to help us with our chat, and we'll interview her about her own Dragon Quest roots. Please welcome Dragon Quest Feels.
Hey guys, you can call me Jen as well.
Oh, welcome, Jen. Before we get into Ichiban and his grand Dragon Quest-fueled illusions, let's get to know you a little bit better.
Yes, so how did you first get into the Dragon Quest series?
As many of our long-timers, my big brother got a special issue of Nintendo Power with Dragon Quest as part of that. Obviously, I was pretty young at the time, so first game I really remember watching was Dragon Warrior, I should say, 4 for the NES. First game I played myself was Dragon Warrior 7 for the PlayStation.
That's a pretty long one to really go through for your first one. Did you actually get all the way through it on your first try?
It was not ideal. I did get stuck the first time I played through, couldn't find one of the shards, that brutal kind of way about it. But I did end up finishing it my second time through. And it actually did become my most favorite Dragon Quest mainline game.
Well, I guess that answers the next question of what was your favorite Dragon Quest mainline game?
Yeah, definitely. Embarrassingly enough, because I know that it's probably more nostalgia than anything, but that PlayStation 1 version of Dragon Warrior 7, Dragon Quest 7, just really has a spot in my heart.
It just pops for you. Yeah, with any kind of new franchise that you get into, usually the first of the ones that you play of those things generally end up being your favorite.
Yeah, that's how it is with pretty much every RPG, just about.
What did you think of the 3DS remake?
It was really easy. I really liked it, but it was so easy. I was grinding some jobs and accidentally beat the final boss because I, took one step too far, couldn't evac out, couldn't zoom away, decided I would just fight the guy and crushed him. So, yeah, it was a little too easy.
Yeah, they definitely toned a lot of the game down for the 3DS remake, which, isn't necessarily a bad thing for how long that game can be.
Yeah, it's a long one. I will say I missed the beginning puzzles too. I thought that some of that, truncating it because, you don't have a fight for over an hour in that original. I did like the fights coming sooner, but the puzzles were really easy.
I always, I hated that they cut out the opening dungeon.
Yeah.
Because I really loved the atmosphere of it.
Me too. It was such a slow burn. You didn't know when the monsters were finally going to show up. You didn't know how it was going to happen. So I did I know why they did it, but I definitely thought it was a bit of a misstep.
Yeah.
And hey, as your favorite first game for the series, I'm sure you might have had the impression of hey, this is great. This never ends. What about your favorite Dragon Quest spin-off game?
This is such a hard question, but I think it's the Builders franchise. And don't ask me to pick between 1 and 2. I love them both for different reasons. I also do love Rocket Slime, and that has a spot in my heart as well. But I put so many hours into Dragon Quest Builders, doing really obnoxious things like cleaning out poison lakes, that I couldn't say any other game.
It's just oddly satisfying to just kind of get your hands in the dirt and just kind of It's kind of like that Minecraft mentality. I know plenty of people who they just pick a task and then they just spend all their time doing that. I did that with Dragon Quest Builders too. I think I terraformed so much of that island, and I'm like, why did I even do this? What was the end game for this?
My claim to fame in Builders 2 is I tore down every mountain and made it almost completely flat.
Oh, wow.
And I built a subway system below the entire things. Then I made a bunch of pixel art where all the mountains were.
Huh. That's pretty impressive. You'll have to show us some screenshots sometime.
I'll share some.
Well, moving on from that, what would you say that your favorite Dragon Quest monster is?
I know how cliche this is going to sound, but I love the slime most of all. The original blue slime is 100% my favorite Dragon Quest monster. You know, I'm going to get at least one tattoo of that great friend of ours. All the other slimes are great too, and I love every single one. Metal slime, you know, king slime, heel slime, you name it, I love it. But give me the OG, 3 hit point, friendly start to every, you know, journey. That's my guy.
That's your guy. Classic choice. Can't go wrong there. I mean, I know there's a ton of them, and we just had a new Monsters game come out, so I'm sure people are finding new ones to love, but how can you not love the slime?
Yeah, the OG, man.
He is the best. So what is your favorite Dragon Quest character?
Again, with the hard questions, guys, I can agonize over this choice because I love so many characters. I'm actually going to give you guys a new school answer. Eric from 11 is probably up there on my favorite characters. So I played Treasure and played him as a kid too. I think that made me like him even more. But yeah, I love the best friend attitude. I love how he looks like the hero from 6. He's great.
It's a very interesting choice because I have heard a lot of people saying like Eric is one of their favorite Dragon Quest characters for a lot of new players and stuff like that. I never understood why, but you know, I guess I could see that. He does. He's got the blue hair. He looks like the Dragon Quest 6 hero. And what was that you said? He's just a very happy-go-lucky, friendly guy.
Yeah, like for a thief, he also is kind of like this sweet best friend, and I really enjoyed playing him in Treasures and kind of getting to play him as a child because you kind of get to see some of that backstory he hints to in 11. So, you know, you get that one little, you know, glance in 11, but then you play him as Treasures and really get to see, you know, his relationship with his sister and all this other stuff that kind of builds on his character. I mean, there's definitely a bunch of other characters, you know, Gabbo or Ruff is really up there for me too. I love Terry. I love so many other characters, but I wanted to give you guys something other than old school answers for every single one of them.
So it's not the Prince of Cannock.
No. I think that everybody has feelings about that good sir and his coffin-like state, but he never was as weak as people said. But I will say the hero in that game just is so much stronger and more powerful that he's kind of useless.
Especially in the original, because in the remakes they do improve him and the equipment that he can do, but the original is just like, oh my god.
I've never tried this, but I kind of always did want to leave him sick at the inn and go beat the game without him. And I've read the lore of how he was supposed to get stabbed and killed at the end, but they didn't have enough, you know, to do that at the time. I guess it was too racy. So I think it would have made him more dynamic if that happened, but he got killed in the game so often that I don't think it would have been as poignant.
Oh, you're dead again. And getting back to Eric, especially if you build him right, he is such a big damage dealer in that game too.
Right?
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, but just absolutely slaying the bonus boss with him.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure we could talk about favorite characters all day long, but let's try something a little different. What is your favorite DQ game mechanic, such as, you know, casinos, job classes, monster collecting, arena fights, etc.?
You know, I'm gonna go with another weird one. I really loved the Pachisi or TNT boards.
I knew I liked you.
They're so brutal. I don't know how many times I ran out of rolls right before finishing one of those, but man, there's nothing like playing that little board game as like a palate cleanser after fighting your way to it. So yeah,
I will boot up my copy of Theater of the Dragon Quest just to play the TNT boards.
Oh my goodness, I didn't know they had TNT boards in there.
They do.
More.
Yeah, they even put them in Tact as well.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that. That's really.
Yeah, they put it in there maybe a few months ago as a new mode that you could do. And I mean, it's closing down globally, but in Japan they're even coming out with new boards and whatnot. It's a lot of fun. And when you do fights, you just take the pool of the monsters that you have and you pick from there. And then when you go into your next fight, you can't use them again. So you just keep using your pool of monsters until hopefully you don't run out. But it can happen if you can't get to the ending in time.
Wow.
In fact, there's not even an ending. You just go until you run out of rolls and try and get as much treasure and items and stuff as you can.
Well, that's fun.
Yeah.
That sounds good. That sounds challenging. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, here's to hoping that they keep it in the 2D HD remake of 3 that's supposedly dropping at some point in the future.
Maybe that's what Hori was playtesting. Maybe that's what he was doing, was playing TNT boards.
He got so busy with TNT boards that actual playtesting came to a grinding halt.
Yeah, I can understand that.
That would explain all of the delays. Yep, for sure. Are there any previous Dragon Quest games that you haven't played yet that you would still like to play?
Clearly Theater Rhythm, now that you just mentioned that. A lot of the games that didn't come west are the ones I want to play. I can't speak Japanese. I don't read it. I have like an anime nerd's understanding of it out loud, so definitely not enough to play a Dragon Quest game. So like Slime Mori Mori 3 is one I would love to play. But for ones that actually came west, I am going to embarrass myself by saying I've never played any of the Monsters games aside from Dark Prince. So I would like to play some of those.
That's cool. I mean, I'm almost in the same boat. I played the first one, the Game Boy Color, way back in the day, but then I kind of dropped off it, and I haven't played it since Dark Prince as well.
Yeah, I tried to emulate, and I just couldn't. I can't emulate Game Boy games. It just doesn't feel right to play them that way. So I'll probably need to get a cart and actually play it.
Hopefully they're still cheap enough. I haven't looked at Dragon Quest game prices in a while, but they kind of exploded after Dragon Quest came to Smash Brothers, and 11 coming out on the Switch just kind of made the whole used game scene for Dragon Quest stuff kind of erupt in price. So
wild to think that that would ever happen.
I never thought I'd see the day.
Yeah, I can't complain. Getting more popular in the West has been my cry for a long time. So I'll take it, even if it costs me a couple extra bucks.
Yeah. So how did you find the Facebook Dragon Questers group and eventually work your way up to being an admin there?
I had to look back to see when I joined, and I joined back in 2016. Probably was fresh off of playing a game and literally threw it in a search and found like some of my best, online friends there. About a year into just being a member, the spoilers from the Japanese version of Dragon Quest XI were out in force, and I remember harassing the admins on the daily about some of the spoilers that were coming out. I remember messaging Pendy like saying, please delete this. It's somebody's literally spoiling the 8th character. Please delete it. And eventually the admins came to me and were like, hey, instead of just reporting all this stuff, do you want to actually be the one to delete it? And I said, absolutely. And they all welcomed me into the admin team with open arms. It's been a really great experience. I will say all of Dragon Quest XI's plot twists were spoiled for me, and that was the only thing that stunk about being an admin. But I really enjoy the community there and the people there, aside from the person who threatened to find me and hunt me down or whatever. But other than that, we've had relatively sane people in the group, and it's definitely a fun community of people who are all really into the same nerdy stuff I am. So I really love being there and being an admin.
Yeah, it was really great to have you on the team. It really brought a lot to what we had already, and it's been great. So I just thought of this, but are you also an admin or a mod of the Builders group too?
I am.
That's right. I totally forgot about that.
Pretty slow.
Yeah, that was a fantastic group because you could, back when it was more active, you could see all the wonderful things that people were building. And I totally forgot that you were an admin over there, too.
I was. And the most recent admin, obviously added quite a while ago, was Ben XC, who's pretty well-known YouTuber who did a bunch of Dragon Quest Builder, builds and videos and stuff like that. So, we're all kind of in a lull, praying and hoping a third game gets made. But until then, every now and then you get some really cool builds pop up.
Yeah, that would be nice if we could get like another Heroes game or Builders game. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's going to ever happen, but definitely hoping and praying on that one.
Square Enix has a hard time counting to 3 when it comes to spinoffs.
Yes, sometimes. So you also have a Dragon Quest themed Instagram account. What is that all about?
Sure. About November, I created an Instagram account called Dragon Quest Feels. It's funny because really it was inspired by Final Fantasy Depression, which is a different Instagram group that just posts like depressing quotes from Final Fantasy. And it cracks me up every day when you see like a random NPC just saying something awful to the hero. And it's just, it brought me such like joy to see that stuff. And I was like, I wonder if the Dragon Quest community would enjoy seeing these sorts of things. Then, I found Final Fantasy Serotonin, which was the happy stuff. And I was like, I don't want 2 accounts. There's no way I'm going to get followers on 2 accounts. So I just did Dragon Quest Feels. And I try to post like feel-y content. So I post like people being mean or people being nice, victories and defeats and things like that. And it's really, for a smaller community, it's taken off quite a bit. And it makes me happy when people like my content or request more. I had a lot of requests for Sylvando, and I had a lot of requests for Jasper, surprisingly enough. So I try to add extra content to what people request, but it's been fun, and expect a lot of Dragon Quest IV content because I am replaying that right now.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there are just so many different feels that you can get from up and down throughout the series because of the atmosphere that you play through, and how happy it can get with characters like Sylvando, and then just how depressing it can get with what can happen in 7 or 5 or certain games. Well, almost all the games, but certainly 7 and 5 just come to the forefront of my mind.
Yeah, I abused 5 quite a bit. Very easy to get good feels from that.
There's a certain vignette in 9 that I'm just like, how did this make it as a story point in the game?
There's a few in 9, and 9 is one I haven't played in a very long time. Don't want to ruin that save file, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. I started actually purchasing extra copies of 9 way back in the day because they were so cheap. I could go into GameStop and get a second copy or a third copy of 9 for no joke, like $8 or $10. So I have like 6 or 8 copies of Dragon Quest 9, and I would just play the game again on a new cartridge when I wanted to because I didn't want to delete, the previous save or something like that. So it was kind of a bummer how they handled the save functionality on the DS game.
That's definitely rough, especially when you're used to having 3 slots. Like that's what Dragon Quest is known for, is 3 save slots, and they were just like, nope, you get 1 and you like it.
Well, hey, now it's time for another series. Now it's time for our look back at Yakuza Like a Dragon Quest. This game has many direct roots to the Dragon Quest series.
Yeah, in the game, Ichiban's favorite video game is the Dragon Quest series. He says it tons of times throughout the course of the game, and Sega even received permission from Yuji Horii to use it as a reference.
The Yakuza series had previously been action-based games. This new game, with a new protagonist, switched it to be more like a Dragon Quest game. Turn-based battles, a job system that features a hero class with many Dragon Quest references, honk honk girls instead of puff puff girls. Ichiban quite literally imagines fights in his head as turn-based Dragon Quest battles. The people he battles often transform into more eccentric-looking characters to fight as well.
Yeah, in the game he goes on at length about Dragon Quest as his favorite, that it's his favorite series and how he aspires to be like a hero in the games.
So what are everyone's favorite Dragon Quest references or mechanics in the game? For me personally, the 2 that I like the most are like when you find this drunk in the streets and it says when you inspect him, no response, huh? It's just a drunk, which is a reference to the classic line, no response, it's just a corpse, that you'll see in Dragon Quest. And then also when you run into this drunk homeless guy, he'll tell you, if you become my ally, I'll give you half off your income taxes, which of course references Dragon Quest 1, I'll give you half the world, when the Dragon Lord tries to coax you into that at the end of the game. So I thought those 2 for me were my favorite.
I think one of my favorite ones is kind of a lesser known reference to it, and this is outside of I think it was one of the hostess clubs in one of the first areas. You come across an old guy who's staring at a poster, and he's like, I wish I could look like that too. I wish I could dress up like a bunny girl, which is, if you've ever been in any of the All Trades Abbeys in any of the games, there's always an old guy that's like, I wish I could be a cute girl.
Oh yeah.
And secondly for me is the honk honk girls, which you randomly find these girls. They're basically, prostitutes that are hanging out on street corners. And when you find them, they ask you if you want to honk honk. You have to pay up, and I think you get a stat buff when you do it, because there's a finite amount of them throughout all of the maps.
Mm-hmm.
So those two would have to be my favorite references that I can still remember from this game.
I love the old guy too. I found him, and I'm pretty sure I told everyone in the house it's a Dragon Quest reference. So definitely agree with that. I had to look up the name of the monster that's the metal slime of Yakuza. It's the infested vagabond in the sewer system, and they're identical to metal slimes.
Yeah, because they look like they're wearing gray trash bags, I think.
Yes. They are, and you hit them for 1 damage no matter what, and they always run away. If you get and I said as soon as I fought one, I was like, this is a metal slime. And I finally beat one after a while, and I got all that experience. I was like, this is amazing. I love this game so much. This is a love letter to Dragon Quest.
Oh, absolutely.
And I love the way that they use the loading screens with the little pixels. It kind of looked like Dragon Quest 11. So there was they were really paying homage to all the games that way. I really liked what they did with it.
Yeah, because they had all the characters that you got them along the game that looked like little pixel versions of them, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. That was great, and they're just walking along.
I love it when they do that in RPGs.
Just to remind you of the good old days.
Yeah. What did everybody think of the story of the game? Fair warning to listeners, though, there will definitely be spoilers in this part. But for me personally, I thought this was probably going to originally be like a divorce from the Yakuza games, and due to that, it wouldn't be as good as the mainline games, even though this is I think this was sold as Yakuza 7 in Japan, though over here we just got Yakuza Like a Dragon. They just dropped the numbering. But I thought they did a very, very solid story. The core story of the game, the journey of Ichiban's quest for answers, raised in the Soapland, and he's trying to find out why he was put into jail for what happened to him while he was in, I forget the family name that he was a part of, but basically they sacrificed him to go to jail, and he came out expecting them to welcome him back in, and they ghosted him. So he's just like, I need to find out why.
Yeah, I think it's a Tojo clan, and they end up being eliminated supposedly, and then they become part of the Omni Alliance.
That's right. Yeah, the whole Omni Alliance thing. Yeah, that starts happening in I think the second portion of the game, to where they're just like, yeah, we're gonna merge with them. And then probably the second thing for me is the party member sub-stories that happen at the bar. At some point in the game, you get a bar as your base, and you can come and go from there as you want. You can go there, you can play karaoke, you can talk to the members of your party. And as the story progresses for each character, you get more and more depth into their backstory about who they are, why they're here, how they, got to this point. And you get a very nice fleshed out backstory for each and every character that you get. It's not something just like, I like fighting, so I joined you. You get what was his name? Adachi. Adachi, had a bad run-in with a criminal when he was a cop on the street. And because something happened to one of the people he was chasing, he started sending money to the child's or the parents' kids after they had died, and it put him into debt. But he was like, I have to do this I have to atone for my sins. So we get a nice follow through on that all the way to the end, and you get that with everybody. I won't go through with everybody because there's a lot to talk about there, but I thought it was very solid.
Yeah, I like Nanba's whole backstory about formerly being a nurse and all of that, and how he lost his reputation and whatnot, and I thought that was really cool. And then, of course, the surprise, how he was actually a homeless plant in the story was interesting too. Spying for one of the groups. That was interesting.
Yeah, they did a good job of gating that, because that storyline didn't come out until you already kind of knew about it to a point. I liked how they gated that story just well enough. You could get more friendship with all your other party members, but he was keeping to himself and he was being reserved, and then it turns out that's why.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. Strengthening your bonds with everybody at the bar. I just look forward to that so much, to kind of delve into their backstories. So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that. It was definitely something that kept me coming back. I always, as soon as I could get more friendship, I would try to do it right away.
Yep, absolutely. And once I hit that wall with Namba and everybody else, I could keep going. I was just like, uh-oh, what's Namba's story? What's going to happen?
Exactly. Some story beats that I thought were pretty interesting. The Sunlight Castle retirement home storyline where, they have this super high class, high end retirement home, but it turns out to just be like a front and just a complete scam. I thought that was such a cool storyline in general, but like infiltrating it and finding out all that stuff, I really enjoyed that part of the game quite a bit. I know it was earlier on in the game, but there was something about like that corruption running through. You knew that was going to be a theme for the rest of the game once you got through that part.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And then the Bleach Japan stuff was so interesting to me, and so like what really, the big twist at the end that the whole leader of it is an absolute hypocrite who's using the Yakuza and using all the gray zone for his own benefit. It was so good, man. Like I love digging into that and finding out that the one guy was totally like buying into it, and then the boss was absolutely not and was just doing it to get into a position of power. So I thought that was really interesting and really dynamic storytelling, honestly.
Oh yeah, I have to agree. I really enjoyed a lot of the Bleach Japan stuff because they wrote it so well that you just absolutely loved to hate it the whole time.
Yes. One of my favorite story beats was when Ichiban was running for office. I loved that whole scenario.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, it's so hilarious. The storyline just has equal parts like funny moments and sad moments and all sorts of different things that are going on. That I love all the different avenues that you go through as the story progresses and the surprises and this guy's really this guy's been this guy all along and whatnot, and how the final boss, how he ended up being the person from behind the scenes that was manipulating everybody, and how he did that was very cool. And it turns out that you went to jail because you were covering for him, and it was kind of for nothing.
Yep.
But that was just so. I liked the whole story beat. Like you're just like a guy in the family in the beginning of it, and you're doing like these little side missions, and then you go to jail for 18 years, and everything completely changes when you get out, and you just have to try and figure out what's going on. You confront your guy about it, and then he shoots you, and then you're just at this homeless camp, and you're trying to figure out everything that's going on with that, and then you run into this whole corruption scandal with counterfeit money, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's just a lot of fun. It's a very engaging story, and I loved everything about that.
This game is not want for good writing. This is some of like the best writing in some video games that I have seen in recent years. Like
yes.
Everything is planned so well, so meticulously. Nothing is given away ahead of time. It's hard to guess what's going to happen next. Even if you're able to read like, oh yeah, this guy's going to be corrupt, it's like for a completely different reason than what you thought.
Yeah, and I also love that I only played like a little bit of the other Yakuza games, so maybe like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, but I knew nothing of the storyline or the lore, and you don't need to know any of that to enjoy this game whatsoever. Like it's there if you want it, but yeah, it's just something you don't need at all.
I've got a friend who is a hardcore Yakuza friend. He has played every game a dozen times, right? So when this game was coming out, I had just finished Kiwami, like Yakuza Kiwami 1, and this game was about to hit, and I was like, I think I'm just going to play this game because I'll be completely honest, they kept going off about the Dragon Quest stuff, and I'm like, all right, that's enough to make me just go straight to this one.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, well, no, you need to play the other 5 first so you can get all the references when you come into this one. And I go, you know what? I think I'll be okay.
Yeah.
But he ended up, playing the game, and he was just like, oh yeah, you missed this reference and this reference and this reference. And I was just like, you know what? It didn't even affect the story at all.
No.
I love that.
It's side stuff. Because it's a new protagonist, a guy starting from scratch that they haven't dealt with before, like you don't need to know the other stuff. It's just, it's fun if you know it, but you don't need to at all.
Yeah. So that's your ringing endorsement. You can just start this game. You don't need to play through the other 6 Yakuza games.
Mm-mm.
It'll make you wonder, and it'll make you wonder what happened, but you don't need to know. That's what I would say.
Now, did everyone play this game in Japanese or English? Personally, I love the dub. That's what I played. I didn't play the Japanese version. I love the performance of KG Tang, who is the voice of Ichiban. And I was lucky enough that he came by to a local anime convention where I live. And so I got to meet him and I got him to sign my game. And what was funny about that is that I didn't physically own the game. I bought that game digitally. So I was like, oh, I don't have anything he can sign, but I want him to sign something. So I ended up buying the PlayStation 5 version of the game. So I was like, I mean, I have a PlayStation 4 now. I'll have a PlayStation 5 eventually. So I'll have him sign that. So I had him sign that, got a picture taken with him. He's a fantastic guy. Went to one of his panels. Hilarious person. Loved what he had to say. He's also done some really great roles in anime too. Like if you watch Jujutsu Kaisen, he's Satoru Gojo in that, one of the major characters. And
love him.
Yes. And what's funny is that I want to buy the physical edition for this game, but I still haven't gotten the PlayStation 5 and I really don't want to anytime soon.
No.
So I'm getting the PlayStation 4 version of the game. So I'm going to have the PlayStation 5 version of the first game and the PlayStation 4 version of the second game. Going backwards.
That's how it goes.
Yep. And then of course Sulu, George Takei as that character in the game. Oh my, that was a great performance as well. And I was so shocked when his character died, but that was a turning point in the game. And they handled that really well.
Well, number one, yeah, big fan of Gojo, big fan of Jujutsu Kaisen. So if you ever do some kind of Dragon Quest Jujutsu Kaisen, please have me on that one too. Happy to try and help you figure out how to map those two together. I think it'll be a little harder than this one though. As for the game, I started playing in English only because I just didn't even know that there was a Japanese option on it. Very quickly, I had to change it to Japanese, and mostly because I was trying to play it while my daughter was around, and there was a lot of language.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I switched to Japanese. She was young enough to not be able to read quickly. Also, just young enough that she bought it when I told her the Hitachi vibrator was a microphone. So I was able to play it around her for a little bit. Probably not going to be able to do that this time around. So this is going to be a nighttime game for me this time around. But I love the Japanese performance. I loved the character so much. I'm definitely playing Infinite Wealth in Japanese. And, I tried to figure out, was there a Dragon Quest crossover of any kind with any of the cast? And, Nanba is actually the voice of the Zenith Dragon in Dragon Quest Your Story. So the Japanese voice of Nanba does the Zenith Dragon, which I thought was kind of funny.
I didn't
know that either.
Given those personalities, I was literally like grasping at straws. Like, is there anybody that did a voice that I know what else they did? And Nanba came up, and I was like, oh, that's so interesting. I found a very slight Dragon Quest crossover there for you guys.
Oh, and that's for the Japanese cast, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. Yeah, because I'd never looked into those connections between the Japanese cast and what they had potentially done with like Your Story or anything else. So that's amazing. That's cool.
It works out in the end. Yeah. For me, I actually, I'm the opposite of Jen. I started the game in Japanese, but because I had previously mentioned, I had just finished playing Kiwami 1, and I played that game entirely in Japanese for no real reason, because I think it had an English dub. I can't remember now.
A lot of the past Yakuza games did not have an English dub. This might have been the first one, but someone could correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, Kiwami was like the remake of the first Yakuza game, but I legitimately right now can't remember if it had an English dub or not. Anyways, I had just finished it. I had played it in Japanese, and I was like, all right, well, it's the same company. They're really good at the dub. It's got an English. I don't know about it. I played for about an hour in Japanese, and then I switched it over to English to see how I would like the English voice cast. And then I, just keep hearing Ichiban saying, man, I love Dragon Quest. And I'm like, and hearing Namba talk and just, listening to some of the characters, I was like, you know what? I think I'll just stick with this for just ease of, I don't have to look at the subtitles all the time to play. I can just, as I'm doing stuff and the characters are talking to me, it's in English, a language I understand. So it was more for ease of access that leaned into, I actually really love the voice cast for the English version.
Nice.
But, don't get me wrong, both dubs were fantastic, because what I played of the Japanese at the beginning, they were doing a fantastic job with it. So any thoughts on the music for the game, to include the karaoke?
I am terrible at rhythm games, so I didn't do very much karaoke. And the little bit that I did was cool, but I couldn't get the hang of actually doing the rhythm portion. motivation to do it. I neglected it. I'm gonna try harder in Infinite Wealth to actually like do it, or I'll make my husband do that part because he's good at rhythm games. So either way, I'll be listening to more of the music in the future. I do think that the ambiance music in general was really good. I thought it really fit story, but I sadly don't have a lot of perspective on the karaoke.
I only did the karaoke a little bit. I like rhythm games. I play a lot of rhythm games, but it was kind of in the back of my mind because I was like, story. I got to play the story. Got to do those sub stories. Got to do everything else because this game is not short on content. So karaoke was one of the unfortunate kind of fell behind to everything else.
Rhythm games aren't really my thing, but I will play a little bit. Like I played a lot of the first Final Fantasy Theatrhythm game, and eventually I want to play the Dragon Quest one as well. But yeah, I enjoyed the karaoke. I don't think I knew any of the songs that they were doing, even though some of them were from some well-known sources and video games and whatnot. But it was a lot of fun to play that. And I did love the soundtrack for the game in general. It really got you into the mood for whatever it was, whether it be high drama or something comedic or the fights. It had some good music. So I'm not a big music nerd, but I did think that they did a pretty good job with the soundtrack for this game. It was fun.
Yeah, no, it was a very solid soundtrack.
Now, the Yakuza games are very well known for their side quest games and activities. In this game, there were throwing darts, batting cages, hostess club, a golf driving range, go-karts, Sujimon battles, saving cats, collecting bugs, vocational school, growing plants, property management, battle arena, watching movies, board games, collecting cans on a bike, poker, koi, pachinko, arcade games featuring actual Sega classic games. Oh, and on and on and on. Now, what were some of everybody's favorites? So for me, I really liked the go-karts. They called it Dragon Kart. I loved the rivalry that you had with the different characters and little stories that you had with them. That was fantastic. That was so fun. A classic one that I know that has been in many Yakuza games is the batting cages. I really like that. I had actually done that before in previous games. The can collection game that I came up with, that was hilarious. That was great. I liked battling the other people as you tried to collect all the different cans going out through the city. The movie theater, I didn't expect that one. Like the timing, to defeat all the little bad guys, to keep you awake as you're trying to watch all these classic movies or these modern movies. It was like a whole mix of different movies, but you'd go with your different friends and be like, let's check this out. But you had to battle these demons to keep poor Ichiban awake the whole time. I had fun with that. And then, of course, the property management game, which is a huge side quest in this game, which can make you a lot of money. I didn't know what to expect with it, and I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not, but I really got into it. I loved assigning the different managers to different types of businesses, and I love that you got a bonus character out of it. Eri, I think her name is.
Yeah, Eri, yeah.
Yeah, and I just had a lot more fun than I thought I would with it, and really enjoyed managing it, and made so much money that I really didn't have to worry about I'd have to grind for levels, but I never really had to grind for money because of that game. So that helped out a lot.
I don't like calling it a mini quest because the property management in and of itself is a game by itself.
Pretty much.
I think I spent like 15 or 20 hours playing that game before I got back to the actual story of Like a Dragon. Like I put serious time into that game, but once you do, you absolutely break the economy of the game by finishing the property management.
And it's it's kind of needed because I remember especially like in the post game when it comes to trying to do those accessories for your weapons and powering everything up, everything is really expensive.
It gets expensive fast, yeah.
Yeah. So it does help out a lot with that. So it's good. It does its job. I don't think it overdoes it. And and then every time at the end of whatever period of time that you had where you went up before the board and you battled those two, that was hilarious as well. Because some of them were like actively trying to bring you down because they were part of a rival company. So those characters were funny too. That was great.
I'm pretty sure we all really liked this mini game in like within the confines of the whole game. Who was your favorite character to use in your lineup? Like who was a constant in your lineup of characters that you would send to the board?
Oh, geez. It's been so long, I don't even remember because there's so many characters that you can
there are.
Remember the chicken?
Yeah,
there was chicken.
Oh, yeah.
Omelet.
What was her name?
Omelet all the way.
Omelet, yeah. I used the baseball star because he was so charismatic. You had to go and do his sub story, and then you would get like his card or whatever. But he was so charismatic, he could almost always persuade anybody.
Oh man, I remember there was some kind of rock, paper, scissors like way to select who you needed to set up against each other. And once I figured that out, my life got a lot easier because I didn't have like one of the colors. I can't even remember which one. I didn't have a good person of that one to battle that one color. So once I actually got a good staff, I like sunk so much time into that side quest. But I tried to do it early and like got hosed. And so I walked away from it for a while until I like recruited the baseball guy and a bunch of other people who were harder to get. And yeah, Omelet was around for a while before I started using other characters. So I am a big fan of Chicken Girl. She gave me some good eggs too at some point. I remember that. That was a lot of fun though. But yeah, I almost, if I had the time, I'd replay it before playing Infinite Wealth, but I don't have the time to sink 100 hours into it again.
Seriously.
But yeah, that was great. And I'm also with Pendy. The movies and fighting the little sheep monsters was so much fun and got really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were these dudes with like sheep masks on. It was hilarious. It was cracking me up just seeing them pop up and trying to knock them back.
I'm at the third on that. I loved the movie minigame a lot. Like I kept going back and playing it even after I finished all of them because I just liked it that much.
It was a lot of fun. And if you like brought the wrong person to the movie, like how much harder it was and things like, I loved that. It was great. It was great. Not quite a side quest, but something I ended up doing late in the game because I didn't realize how much fun it was. But you can go and have dinner with your team. And if you order the right food, you have these different conversations. So once I made a ton of money doing property management, I literally just went from restaurant to restaurant, unlocking all the scenes and getting all of the interactions. And I'll never forget, one of them was about double dipping gyoza or something like that.
Oh, I remember that one. That one was hilarious.
I was like, this is like a Seinfeld thing. Like, this is fantastic. I loved it. So
I did the same exact thing you did. I just started like late game. I realized, because I had been just skipping out on going to restaurants, and I sat down in one, and this dialogue popped up, and I go, "What is this?" And I'm like 60 hours into the game at this point, and I'm like, "What is this?" And so I started doing the same thing.
Yeah, it was very fun, and I just did it in a big sweep and just really got some cool backstory. And then, I'll have to say they made going to school fun. The whole side story of the university and bringing the flowers to the girl and then doing all of the, the tests and stuff. I had a lot of fun with that. I don't know if I'm just a glutton for punishment, but that was a lot of fun.
Well, that trivia that you had to do, that was fun. I did enjoy that, and I didn't try and cheat. I tried to just figure it out on my own. Mm-hmm. Sometimes to great success, sometimes to not so much great success. But that was fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the university stuff as well. Just for the same thing. Sure, it was $50,000 to take a test, and if you hadn't been doing property management at that point, that was just astronomical in cost for doing. But you do it enough, you get your nice stat ups for doing it in each category. Well worth it, and it's a lot of fun, especially when you get like the science exam to where you're having to actually answer chemistry questions, and you're just like, "Excuse me, what?" I'm here to play a video game, not take a chemistry quiz. But there were a few categories that were fun, like Sega history, and then it would ask a whole bunch of questions about past Sega IPs, and I aced all those no problem. But when it came to like the chemistry ones, I was like, I'm gonna have to look this up because I don't know.
Yeah, there were the ones where there was like timing too for answering, and those ones were always the hard ones.
Oh yeah. Well, as referenced in our opening, there are special characters called Poundmates that can be called to do a special attack. What were your favorite side quests collecting these? For me personally, I think the only one that I can really remember is unlocking Robson via finding the cats in the city. Because you would go to, I believe, the Poundmates headquarters, or was it the Hero headquarters?
Yes, the Hero headquarters.
The
Hero headquarters, and the head guy in there gave you this quest of help find these cats, and you had to go and find 7 cats over a section of the city, and you had no real way of finding them except walking around and listening for meows.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you found them. You just kind of walk around and you walk up to them, press X, you found a cat. And after you did 7 of those, you would find our boy Robson. And Robson, when you summon Robson, hops out like a cat, turns into a giant ferocious tiger, takes a swipe at the enemies. It's great. I loved it.
Big fan of Robson here too. Definitely agree. I love Nancy Chan, the lobster.
Oh,
So like you get attached to this lobster, and then all of a sudden during one of these side quests you find out that he's gonna cook the lobster for dinner, and you have to go, like, you beg him not to. He asks for like one of the more expensive food items from like the convenience store, and you bring it to him, and then you can summon Nancy. Nancy Chan becomes a gigantic lobster and just wrecks stuff, and I love her. So I'm a big fan. I do hear she's coming back in Infinite Wealth too, with friends or something. So excited to see my lobster friend all grown, and obviously memorably the guy who like dressed as a big baby.
That sub story.
And he like throws a tantrum or something. Apparently he's a callback from a prior Yakuza game. I looked this up.
So that's, again, one of those references. If you don't get it, great. But if you get it, it's extra funny.
Exactly. Yeah. So those are the two most memorable. I struggled remembering all the other summons too.
There's a lot of them. There's some that I didn't even get, because in one of the trailers they show you calling down a dragon as one of the pound mates, and I'm like, I don't remember getting that one. Was that one in the post game?
Yeah, they're just the best thing about it is not so much the fact that you can call them in to help you out with their party, which of course is great, because it's basically these summons that you pay for that can help you out. But just like the little side story that you go into to get them into your party in the first place, a lot of those can be so much fun. And yeah, the one with the grown men in diapers, that was definitely one of the weirder parts of the game.
Wasn't there one that was just a giant Roomba?
I think so, yeah.
You had to fight one at some point.
You did have to fight a big Roomba, but I don't remember if you got it as a pound mate. I feel like you did, but maybe I'm just misremembering, because it has been like 2 years since I've played the game.
Yeah, because that was a boss at some point. I just can't remember if you recruited it. And of course, again, there's Omelette. You can have Omelette as someone that you can call in. The chicken. I like that one. And I like Nancy Chan too. That was a great story. There's just so many of them. Oh, Megumi, the little girl that you help out. That one was a pretty good one. There's just all the side stories of it.
Was Megumi the soup kitchen girl?
No, that was because she's in there too. I liked her too. That
one's a good summon.
Yeah, sure. The broth of benevolence. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. She's like cooking and
there are a lot of pound mates in this game, and you can actually miss most of them if you're not like doing everything too.
Yeah, because you got to actively seek them out and go for their side quests or side stories.
Because I think the only one that you get is the introduction to the pound mates, and it's the dude that has like the metal balls on his hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with the spikes on them and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, and also I love how even with the movie side quests, like you can get one of the famous movie actors that comes in and boosts damage to you.
I think I missed that one.
Yeah, and it's from the Korean drama movie that they have there, and he's like the.
Oh, I remember that subquest.
Yeah.
Wow, core memory unlocked.
Mm-hmm. The guy, the boxing guy, is Gary Buster Holmes.
That is such an American name. Like one of the Japanese writers goes, "Yes, this is the most American name I can come up with."
Let's throw all the boxing names together into one name. Now, another great thing about this game was the job classes, and they become a big part of the game later on. I loved how the characters went to an actual job agency to make the switch. Now, what was everyone's favorite job classes? For me, I would have to say the Idol and the Hero. The Idol, just because it's hands down pretty much the best support class, great for healing and other things, and it's just adorable on top of that. And then the Hero, just because there's so many Dragon Quest references in it. It's obviously based off the Hero class from the Dragon Quest series, and there's a lot of it related to the series, and I loved how they did that.
Yeah, it's hard to pick. I mean, obviously, they kind of were there were less classes for women, so really I liked Idol best for the female characters.
I had the Idol as a Sayako for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. And then a lot of the male characters had really cool outfits and stuff. I loved Musician because I just loved fighting with the guitar, but also the ridiculous outfits they all wore were just fantastic. Class was fine. I tried to master all the classes with everybody because what else are you going to do when you put 100 hours into a game? You're going to master the classes.
Did you get the DLC classes classes as well?
I did not. I know there's a pretty cool class in the DLC that I think I would have loved, but I didn't get it. Also like Chef because I like the fire attacks that they had,
those are
plus
good.
the outfits.
I had Namba as the chef for a long time because of specifically that.
Yeah, well, he has those breath attacks as homeless guy too, so it really enhances him to have those.
I think that, gosh, like you said, there's a ton of class. I'm literally scrolling through the job class right now, and I think for Ichigo, I had him as a Ichiban. I had him as a bodyguard for a long time because there was a few bodyguard attacks that I really liked, and they were just very effective at the point I was at in the game. So I just used him a lot for that. And I had Adachi as a foreman forever.
Yes, me too. I used him a lot like that. Big old.
And then, like I said, with Sayako, I had her as an idol for a very long time, and I think I had her as the Night Queen because she basically had a special attack that you just kicked dudes in the nuts, and it worked really well.
Understandably.
I'm hoping they have more female classes in the new game because they're going to have more female playable characters as far as I've
They need to because I think there was like 3 classes.
Yeah, there weren't enough.
I wish that it was also like I wish the classes weren't gated by that either. Like you could have had Psycho or Eri as any of them. It would have. I don't know how much that would have unbalanced the game, but I wish they could have been more than being stuck to like 3 or 4 classes tops.
And I'm wondering if this was like possibly like because weren't there certain classes locked to certain genders with Dragon Quest 3, or was that just personalities in the remakes?
Just personalities.
Just the personalities.
Yeah, I was wondering if that was related, but I don't know. Yeah, so hopefully they'll have more.
I don't think it's related. I think it's just because technically there's only one female main character because Eri is the side character, so they gave her own, and then the other, what is it, there's 4 or 5 other male characters that have to share this pool of job classes. So I don't know what they were thinking with it, but they should have let anybody. I would love to have seen Adachi as a Night Queen. I don't know about
you. Yeah, I'm here for that.
Yes, or any of them as an idol would have been great.
That would have been fantastic.
Yes, please.
Now, did anyone do the post game? I did it for a little while, but once I realized the amount of grinding I would need to complete that final tower, I just didn't have. I couldn't go over and do like 30 levels. I just couldn't have. I had to move on. I had other games I wanted to play and whatnot. That was too much for me. So I just cheated and I just watched the YouTube video of the final fight to see what it was about. And apparently, I guess the character that you fight at the end of that is important as a previous character in the series. Well, I didn't know who he was. So I'm like, okay, I guess we fought that guy and won. Good for us.
Very similar story here, Pendy. I was grinding up for post game, and other games came out, and I struggle with doing post game in video games. Like the first time I played Dragon Quest 8, I didn't realize there was like post game that you had to play, so I almost missed it.
Are you the kind of person that when you roll credits, that's kind of like a mental like wall comes up that you can't continue with any like additional content?
No, it gives me permission to stop if I want to, though. Like I can justify stopping. I only get the mental wall if the post game is purely like finish out the monsters, and like in Treasures, I didn't really keep going after I got the credit roll, I got the scene after the credits. I tried to play it again and I just couldn't. But with like Dragon Quest 11, it was easy to keep going. Even Act 3, take it for what it is. It was enough story to keep me interested, but I couldn't really. I was grinding and I couldn't really justify picking it back up when I picked up a different game. So I did put it down at that point.
For me personally, I always meant to do the post game. When I finished the final boss fight and I rolled credits, I think I had somewhere between 85 and 90 hours logged into the game. And also, I think I had finished the game within 2 to 3 weeks of it coming out. Like I finished it within the first month, which is not something I normally do.
Wow.
And there at the time there was zero information online about this game. Like usually you can go to Game 8, you can go to various websites and people are talking about it, but this game was just enough under the radar that there was not a dedicated, community of people out there aggregating all of the information of it. I found a little bit of stuff on Game 8 while I was playing it bit on, oh, if you want to do this weapon, just combine these things, but it was very sparse and very not well put together. So when I got to the post game, and I know how post games and a lot of RPGs can be, it gets long, it gets grindy. I was like, maybe I'll come back when there's more information up, because at this point I'm willing to just have a guide open while I do it, and it just never happened. It's been 2 years now. I should probably go back and do it, with infinite wealth on the horizon.
It'd be impressive to just jump right back in and take that on. I'd be interested in hearing how that adjustment is going back to the end.
Well, I don't know how it's going to be. I remember a fair amount of the game even before having to refresh myself for the podcast here, but I enjoyed enough that I think I could do it. Although I don't think I would want to play it on my PS4 anymore. I'll just pay the $10 and get that PS5 upgrade for free, because I got the steel case edition since I bought it so early.
Nice.
So moving on from that, is there anything we think the game could have done better? Is there any glaring things that just made you go, I didn't like this about the game? Like, for example, I felt, I played a lot of RPGs in my day, and I felt like this game had a very wonky gating method to level requirements for areas. Because in a lot of RPGs, there's a nice gradual ramp up of enemy levels, so you aren't required to grind too much unless you want to. But this game had some kind of bad pacing issues with that, where you'd have a fixed level increase moving from one area directly to another. And it was always something weird, like it would be a 5-level increase, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in this game, it was a lot. So I found myself, I would finish an area and I'd move on to the next area. And you would think that going from start to finish in an area, it would get me about 75, maybe 80% of the way there to hit the next area. And that wasn't the case here. You'd hit the next area, you'd feel under leveled because everything would immediately start hitting way harder than you expected it to. So you would have to go back and you'd have to run through areas and grind out. And at the end of the game, I found myself kept going back to the Battle Coliseum and just running through it a couple of times to get the levels just to continue to the next area, which can be very off-putting for a lot of people because you don't want to do that excessive grinding. It's definitely a pacing issue.
That's an interesting point. I also saved the Coliseum for way later in the game than I should have. So I didn't find it as grindy, but I think it's because I did so much exploration. And one of my complaints about the game is, the way the map there were areas that were gated off, but it wasn't always clear. So you could get very easily lost in the city. And then, there's a taxi that you got to take to get back because you have no idea where you are. And, like you said, sometimes the monsters are a little stronger. The people are a little stronger. I didn't find it too grindy though myself, but I did think it was paced a little weird in a different way. Just the storyline felt a little stop-starty at times for me. So similar complaint, but with a different bent on it.
Yeah, there were points early in the game to where if you went down the wrong street, you would have enemies that were just like 10 levels above you.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
It was like going over the wrong bridge in Dragon Quest.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I mean, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but yeah, that's just how I felt about leveling in this game. It just kind of felt very choppy. Like in any Dragon Quest game, when you play, as you play through it, you don't constantly feel underpowered. Whereas in this one, moving from area to area, I was just like, am I doing something wrong? Because I'm doing all of the main story stuff and I'm doing side quest stuff. Maybe I'm just not running around and grinding enough between doing the sub stories and other stuff. So that was my issue with it. And I play a lot of RPGs. Usually grinding is not an issue for me.
Yeah, for me, I didn't really have too much that I had any issue of with the game. Something that I saw from other people that they didn't like was that how you kind of had to position yourself just right to do like the AoE attacks, like the area of effect attacks. And I actually like that. I like how where you were situated on the fight area, affected how you could fight somebody. And then like you had destructible parts of the board where you could whack somebody with it. Like, oh, hey, the bicycle stand, I'm going to hit you with it if I get there just in time. It kind of reminded me of what disappointed me about one of the modes for Dragon Quest XI, where you could have a fight mode where you could run around, but it had no effect on the battle whatsoever. It was just to make it look more dynamic, even though it didn't affect the fight at all. So I liked that as you walked around the fight, that you could it would actually affect how the fight would go and how you could do certain abilities.
Yeah, I agreed that I loved when I would like trigger a battle and be standing right next to a bike and just smash the enemy with it. Like It was always so convenient to have that option. If you could, so I started to, run by the bikes if I was going towards people. I did hear that they're going to add more movement in the battles that in Infinite Wealth. So I think that'll hopefully satisfy the people who are complaining about it a bit, because it was a cool addition that could have probably been slightly better. I think they've realized that and they're working on it.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. So if they're adding, if they add more area to it so you can maneuver around more easily, that will probably fix what
that'll alleviate a lot of problems.
Yeah, battle screens were a little cramped. That is true. That was a bit of just a little learning curve at the beginning, I think. We complained about this earlier, but the lack of diverse female job classes definitely didn't love that about the game either.
No, I definitely get that. I said, again, I can't emphasize this enough. If everyone could be an idol, that would be hilarious. I'd love that.
Yeah,
I'm here for it.
I would have the whole party as idols for a while.
Just because.
Yeah.
I don't care if it unbalances the game. Let me play my job classes the way I want to play my job classes.
Yeah.
Let the old man be a bunny girl.
Darn right.
Exactly. Okay, so now for final thoughts on the game. I'll go first. I thought just up and down, this was just one of the best games I've ever played. It was fantastic. The battle system, the characters, the story, everything was entertaining and engaging. It was just so much fun throughout the entire game. I loved being in modern day Japan and playing a turn-based RPG. It was great. I loved how they did it. Even the areas that you got to go to that were featured in the game, Yokohama and Osaka, I had recognized some of those areas from when I had been able to visit Japan. I was like, oh, I recognize that place in Osaka. And then later on, I actually visited more of Yokohama after I had played the game, and I got to the part of the board where it's on the bay, and I actually went to that part of Yokohama. I was like, oh my god, this is like a Dragon.
That's so cool.
I recognize this from the game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's great. So I really like that about the game. Everything about it was just a fun time, and that's all you need from a game. Is it a fun time? And it certainly was. And from beginning to end, it was a great experience for me.
Yeah, the year it came out, it was definitely my game of the year. It's definitely the game that really sucked me in and held me in, and it was a sleeper hit for me. I wasn't expecting much from it. I think my husband was the one who was like, there's this game, and it's going to be a turn-based game based off of this series that was a beat 'em up. And they said something about Dragon Quest. I think you should look into it. And I'm so happy I did, because it was just delightful. We all joked in Questers, it's like a Dragon Quest, because it really is. It got me hyped for the series. It was a great entry point for a newcomer to the series. I was Googling Easter eggs, trying to learn more about Kiryu and all this other stuff. What's the backstory? Why are these people important? Why do I feel like I should be shocked to see these people? So it was a great way to learn about the entire series and just enter in, but in a gameplay style that is much more suited to me. I know, there's a very big split in the community on turn-based or not for this series. And they said, if this doesn't pan out well, we're not going to do another one this way. We're going to call it an experiment and call it done. And clearly it went very well, because Infinite Wealth is returning to the same style. So I think that it was just a really fantastic game. And it was just, just such a pleasure to play. A game that really understood the things that made turn-based special and unique, because everyone always says how boring a turn-based game is. And this game was far from boring. And the gameplay and the fighting was far from boring. So I was delighted to find a game that really resonated with a different audience than typical, everyone who loves Dragon Quest loves Dragon Quest sort of thing.
And the great thing about the game is that the Dragon Quest part is what brought me in. But if you take away all the Dragon Quest references that Ichiban talks about and the direct references, it's still a fantastic game. That's just what brought me in. But then I was like, wow, this is just such a great game on its own, minus all the Dragon Quest stuff. It's such fun.
Solid to the core, because I honestly had no intentions of ever playing this game. I remember when the game got announced, I didn't really pay attention to it all that much. I had a couple of friends go, hey, the main character says he likes Dragon Quest, like Jen with her husband. You should look into this. And I did, and I was like, okay, maybe I'll play it at some point. And one day when I was walking through the store a week after the game had come out, maybe not even a week, I saw it on the shelf for games are $60 at the time. It was sitting at 50, and I go, and it was the only copy on the shelf too. And I go, maybe this is a sign. I'll grab it. I took it home, booted it up, and I really enjoyed everything about the game. Like I said previously, having only played Yakuza Kiwami before starting on this one, I was actually pulled in more because of the random battles and the class system rather than the real-time brawler that the regular Yakuza games are. Leaning into the RPG thing with Ichiban was a huge factor for me. I just love how I like his character a lot, and his character really resonated with me because I liked his happy-go-lucky attitude in the face of adversity that he had throughout the story. And he's charismatic. I loved it. I mean, game good, play game.
So we all loved Yakuza Like a Dragon, of course. And now a sequel is coming out called Infinite Wealth. It drops 26 January. Does everyone have it pre-ordered? I do, but kind of in a roundabout way, because I thought I was just going to be able to go to my local GameStop and get the physical edition pre-ordered, and that's all she wrote. And apparently at the GameStop, you can't do that unless you are having it shipped to you. If you go to a physical store, you can't get it pre-ordered. You have to I don't even know if they're going to have it in the store when it comes out. It's just so weird.
That's so weird.
GameStop is really weird about that sometimes. Unless it's going to be a guaranteed hit, they usually won't stock copies unless you do something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just thought that was very weird. Yeah, and I checked it up online, thought maybe, is this manager just doesn't know what he's talking about or some kind of weird error? Nope. If you try and pre-order it as a in-store pickup, it's not available. You can only have it shipped to you.
That's strange.
How times have changed.
That's not unheard of these days, yeah.
So I did get it pre-ordered because I did want to get the pre-order bonus because it has like some boost items that okay, that's great. But it has 2 job classes that come with pre-ordering it, which I thought were really cool. One is like a football player and one is like a tennis class. So I'm like, oh yeah, I want to get those for sure. So I did do the pre-order. I just got the base edition. I didn't get any of the fancier, more expensive editions. But yeah, I got it pre-ordered and I'll have it through Amazon coming to me hopefully soon. Hopefully it doesn't happen what happened to people with Dragon Quest Monsters where they didn't get it until like a week, 2 weeks afterwards. I don't know what happened with that. That was weird as well.
That was brutal. Luckily that didn't happen to me, but I did hear about people just not getting the game, and I hear that Amazon's been fumbling a lot of launches recently, so fingers crossed for you. Same story here where it's pre-ordered via Amazon, so we'll even see if I get the codes for the special job classes. Although football star and tennis player make me wonder if they did gender the classes again, but I guess we'll see when it comes out. I have been following RGG Studio on Instagram. They have a bunch of ads right now for it. They're trying to cater to their 2 audiences. I think that Kiryu's fight style is going to be he's going to somehow be able to do like beat 'em up style instead of turn based. I don't know anything about that, but that's just something I read recently. They had like ads for area effect attacks, and I'm like, that's so funny that they felt the need to make an ad like that. They have these really weird like fake real life people seeing things happening in the game, like don't order from the food place here, or I saw a guy hit someone with a squid, and it's like pretending like it's like TikTok videos. So it's very interesting.
That's weird.
Marketing ploy. Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about it. Guy said Inker to the blinker, and now that's stuck in my brain and will be forever.
Wow, that's
Inker to the blinker. Yeah.
Those marketing guys are patting themselves on the back for that one.
Yeah, they are, and I still feel uncomfortable even saying it, but yeah. But I'm still really excited, and I got really jazzed up about the game when I heard that they were trying to kind of bridge that gap, because I do think they have a divided fan base, at least in the West. I don't know, if this will bridge that gap, but I hope it does.
Well, they can just go play The Man Who Erased His Name if they want.
I did see what you were talking about, though, with Kiryu, where he has like a special mode or attacks where he can unleash like real-time combos that you can do like he did in the previous games. I thought that was pretty cool that they...
Yeah, I'll bet if anything, because you can't really meld a brawler and a turn-based battle together. But if I had to compare it to something, it could potentially be like if you've played Project Cross Zone, whenever you get your turn, you do inputs to do attacks, or like Zell from Final Fantasy VIII when he does his limit break. You may be able to move around while you do it, and you have you've got a timer to get in there and do as much damage as you can. that's the only way I can imagine them handling that kind of thing. Like, it's still technically turn-based, but his isn't just select a special attack or a regular attack and do it. It's you get freedom of movement and input presses for this amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be interesting to. I like it when they take the turn-based formula and do unique things like that. So that'll be fun to try out.
But for me, honestly, I hadn't been following the game too closely. I didn't even know it was announced until like a week ago, until Pendy was just like, hey, do you want to jump in on this episode? I was like, there's a second game coming out. But then again, I didn't follow Like a Dragon when it was announced either. I had other people tell me about it. So we'll see. I was so pleasantly surprised with the first game. I watched a trailer for Infinite Wealth earlier today. So we'll kind of go from there. I probably won't get it day one because it's kind of like, my budget is already planned for the next, 2 weeks to a month. So buying a $70 video game currently isn't in that budget. But if I really get the FOMO for it, I may just go buy it. I don't know. Probably not, but I'll probably get it sooner than later because I loved the first game, and doing the research up for this episode and talking about it makes me really want to play Like a Dragon again. But it's like I should just take that energy and just aim it at Infinite Wealth when it does come out.
You should.
I think you should.
Yeah, do it.
But so seeing that I literally just watched, like, I'm not kidding, like 2 hours ago I watched the trailer for it. We see that the story for Infinite Wealth involves Ichiban traveling to Honolulu, Hawaii to find his long lost mother. What are we looking forward to with this new location and story? For me, this is kind of what I wanted to see in the first one. We got to learn at the end of the game who Ichiban's father was, which was, for me, a big surprise. I was like, no freaking way.
Yep.
Like, I was like so taken aback by that. And now we get to learn about his mother because, as we knew in the beginning of the game, he got left in the soapland to grow up there because his mother just kind of left. So now we get to go track her down and potentially find out more about what happened when he was younger, maybe. I don't know. I am interested in seeing how they're going to handle the Yakuza in Hawaii because it's not, it's not that I don't believe it. It's just that's an interesting concept that I had never thought about before. Having like a whole Yakuza arm just operating out in Honolulu. Are we going to be able to travel to the other islands? Are we going to be able to see? Are we going to get a pound mate that involves an erupting volcano?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reuniting with the old party. I'm looking forward to seeing what they've been up to. I think it's 5 years after the first one or something. So seeing what all my old friends were up to, seeing what, Ichiban's been up to, meeting some new playable characters too. And obviously we have, some characters becoming playable who weren't last game. So very excited about all that. Also, I haven't been to Japan yet. That is on the bucket list, but I haven't been there yet. But I have been to Hawaii. So I am looking forward to trying to see if I can have the same experience Pendy did, where I can see, oh, I know that location. Oh, I recognize the place that they are, because that's always just such a nice feeling to actually immerse yourself in the world. So very excited about that feature as well, being able to potentially recognize something.
Oh, so you honeymooned in Hawaii? Was that it?
I did, yes. Yeah. Back in 2011, I was in Hawaii. So a while back, but I think I can recall it.
That's amazing, because I got married in Hawaii and did a joint kind of like we're getting married, doing our honeymoon here thing as well in Honolulu, and I'm looking forward to the same thing. Like, oh, am I going to recognize these various locales? Like, we got married right on a peninsula off of Waikiki Beach, so if we can go there in the game. I'm like,
that'd be awesome.
Yes, and take a screenshot and show it to my wife. Be like, hey, this is where we got married.
Looks like I'm the odd man out on this Hawaii team.
You should go. It's great. But yeah, so that'll be hilarious because we only got married less than 3 years ago. So a lot of these locations are pretty fresh. So it'll be fun to see like what translates into the game and whatnot, what they actually put in that's real life about that city. So that'll be fun. And I'm looking forward to the new characters they're going to have, and all the returning characters are coming back. It seems like most of the main returning characters are all coming back for the game. And then there's even some that are going to be playable that weren't before, like Seon Hee, who apparently was mistranslated as Seongkwi. And I looked her name up as spelled in Korean. My wife is Korean, just background on that. And I agree. I guess it was a mistranslation. So it'll be fun that like a character like that was big in the storyline of the first game will now be a playable character in this game. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Always love new characters. We need new characters. And, we've got our returning characters. So I want to see if, we get anybody, we'll probably get a brand new character to the game. There's no doubt about it, right? I mean, they can't just bring back the entire old cast and then some, non-playable characters as playables now without giving us something new.
Yeah, I think there's at least 2 new characters, 2 playable characters they announced. So looking forward to learning more about their backstories.
Oh, for sure. Now, what do we think of the different editions of the game being offered? And this is kind of a big downer, I think, for this upcoming game. It seems that New Game Plus, the post game, is going to be locked behind both of the premium editions. I mean, does that mean that the entire post game is going to be paywalled behind this? It just seems pretty scummy to me.
I'm curious because I saw, when I looked at the store page earlier, I saw that too, and I'm like, there's no way that they're locking that behind different editions. It's got to be that you get it sooner and not later.
I hope so.
I don't know. I hope so, but I mean, I guess New Game Plus isn't crucial to a gameplay, right? It's like restarting with features. So I could see them making you have to pay for it and maybe adding it as a DLC.
I've seen Sega make some pretty bad fumbles with DLC, and if this is one of them, then yeah, this is going to be pretty bad.
Yeah, that was really disappointing to read. When I first heard about it, I was like, oh, that's ridiculous. Someone's just misread something. Someone just doesn't understand it. And the more I read it and look into it, it's pretty clear that they're flat out saying you won't get this feature if you don't have one of the more expensive versions of the game. And that is really disappointing.
Yeah, because I mean, I know that none of us here completed the post game, but I still did some of it. I ran it for a good, 5 hours, 10 hours, running around doing stuff until I realized I had to get like 30 more levels or something ridiculous.
I've never known another game to lock New Game Plus behind a paywall. I've seen older RPG. When I say older, like I remember a couple of RPGs in like the PS3 360 era when DLC was becoming like a new thing in the 2010s, to where the developers later go, oh yeah, here's New Game Plus, it's free, because it wasn't in the base game. But I've never seen this, and this is concerning, to say the least.
The only thing I can think of that is kind of similar, but not the same though, is I remember there's been some Fire Emblem games in the past where they would come up with like bonus scenarios that you could pay to download to do. But it's not like, that's not like straight out like here's a continuing storyline with post game. Like imagine if they did that to like Dragon Quest 11, like Act 3 was paywall. That would have been horrible.
Oh God.
I'm really hoping New Game Plus is pure New Game Plus, like Chrono Trigger, restart the game with your stat, and not like any post game at all. That would be horrible and a huge mistake if all of the post game is locked.
I agree.
I guess moving past that though, is there anything anyone else is looking forward to with the new game?
It looks gigantic.
It looks absolutely massive.
It looks like it's going to be way over 100 hours this time around for me. I'm looking forward to the Sujimon battles, leaning into that Pokemon style. Looks fun. All the new, food delivery and all the other new side quests they've added look like a lot of fun. Hopefully those aren't paywalled too. But I'm definitely looking forward to just really digging into a game front to back and just sinking time into it.
Yes, you bring up the food delivery game. That's basically Crazy Taxi, but you're on a bike. So it's fantastic. And what I'm also looking forward to are some of the new voice actors that they're bringing in, like Daniel Day Kim, who's famous for doing Lost and a bunch of other TV shows in the past. Danny Trejo.
Danny Trejo was like...
Danny Trejo.
Watching the trailer, I was just like, "This is beautiful. I love it."
It's basically, it looks like they almost like brought in this Machete character to do this. So that looks fantastic. So that's gonna be great. Oh, and the new dating game that looks a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
Like, how you do that, I'm not exactly sure, but like the fact that you have to like do these certain button presses or something like that to say the right things to all these women or men. Probably they might be men. Oh, I don't know if it's just Ichiban. So I don't know. But anyways, the dating game looks hilarious as well. Looking forward to that.
I am personally looking forward. Actually didn't touch on this that much in the entire episode, but like the sub stories of the game, the fun side quests more or less that you go and do as you do the main game. I love those because when you have the super serious story going on with Ichiban and like the main story, then you have all of this side stuff like, I gotta go fetch some milk for this giant baby man, or I gotta help a dude who is covered in soap bubbles like stealth across the map so he can get his clothes back. That's the Sujimon stuff. That's the stuff that I loved, and I want to see what we're gonna get here. Like I want to see some side quests to where we help some disgraced surfer regain his reputation via the surfing minigame that we've seen gonna happen. Stuff like that. I'm here for the schlocky, funny B story stuff. Like I cannot wait to see what we get.
And that's where the game just gets so fantastically weird sometimes with those little side quest storylines. So I'm always looking forward to those as well. Now, here's a special treat for us all. Sometimes with guests, we do a game called Marry, Thwack, Puff Puff. And this time, it's going to be like a dragon theme.
So for Jen, we have the following of Ichiban, Zhao, or Jugihan.
Oh, man, guys. So Puff Puff Zhao, just right off the bat, that's easy. But man, I'm not sure. I think I have to marry Ichiban. And
I think that's a wise choice.
And Thwack, why am I blanking on his name?
Poor Jungi.
Jungihan, yes.
Yeah.
And I love him. It's very hard to thwack him because I loved his backstory. I loved that discovery of the body double stuff and everything. But I can't thwack Ichiban. I can't thwack the main character. And I know he's a little crazy, but it's Dragon Quest crazy. That's like me.
He's not crazy. He's just determined.
I like that.
Passionate.
Even better.
Now, for Bururian and I, we have Eri, Saiko, and Sonhee. Now, fun fact I learned while researching this, all the female characters that Ichiban can try to be romantic with in Like a Dragon are actually modeled after their voice actors.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so just the ones that you can actually have a romantic or try to have a romantic relationship with in the game, they are actually modeled after the voice actors, whereas like Sonhee or Saiko, they're actually original designs. But the rest, the ones that you can date, they're actually modeled after the actual actresses themselves. So I thought that was a fun little fact. But Bururian, I'll let you go first on this Marry Thwack.
Oh boy, I would probably thwack Seonhee because
Yeah.
I'm sure she would be fun with the Puff Puff, but actually, shoot, it's real tough. Like, I think Mary Saiko, I really liked her character a lot. I liked her backstory. I liked her character growth in the story a lot. And then, you know what? No, we'll thwack Eri. She may be heir to the fortune of property management, but she's an optional side character, and she didn't have too terribly much personality. So we'll Puff Puff with Seonhee. Yeah, that's my final choice.
Gotcha.
Regis, that's my final answer.
That was a close call.
So I'm going to agree with you as far as the thwack. I would also thwack Eri. That's probably a poor decision because, like you said, she is that property management genius, and I could probably live a long and enriched life with all the money that we could make together.
To be fair, the property management wouldn't have thrived without the involvement of Ichiban. So
good point. But I would say I would Puff Puff Saeko, being a hostess with the mostest. I'd go with that, and then I would have to marry Seonhee. I really like her character and her background in the game, and I'm looking forward to that hopefully being expanded in the new game. As, like I said before, she'll be a playable character. So,
is it also because she is Korean like your wife?
It has nothing to do with it.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what you're talking about. But I did think that was interesting to see that perspective of the Chinese and the Koreans in Japan as other gangsters in the game, and how they all melded together.
Yeah, it was a great story. It was a great play out, written beautifully. Like, I have nothing negative to say about the actual main story of the game.
Yeah, it was great.
So good.
Well, sadly, that is all for this episode. Thank you for coming on the show, Dragon Quest Feels. It has been a blast.
Yeah, we're glad you were able to to join us and have a nice lengthy chat about a fantastic game that we're about to get a sequel to.
So great chatting with you guys and gushing about two of my favorite series. So thank you so much for having me. And definitely come check out the Dragon Quest Feels Insta. It's about to get a little Dragon Quest 4 heavy, so I think you'll all enjoy.
Well, that's all for this episode of Slime Time.
We're a non-profit podcast. We won't honk your hard-earned gold when we can offer you quality content for free. But if you do have some extra gold that's just completely burning a hole in your wallet, dartboard, batting cage, hostess club, or even Sega arcade machine, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for over 25 years, stop by the Dragon's Den by clicking the link in the show notes. There are several ways to support the Den, including the affiliate links that don't cost you anything when making Dragon Quest purchases, or even if you were to buy Infinite Wealth. A little bit of that would go to the Den.
You can also check us out on Twitter and Instagram at DQ Slime Time.
Join in tons of Dragon Quest discussion at the Dragon's Den forums or Discord, and the Dragon Questers and Dragon Quest Tact global Facebook groups.
And we'd also like to thank everyone that made this episode of our podcast possible, including Platy, Woodus of the Dragon's Den, and the Shangri-La Soapland that raised Ichiban.
Hear, hear. Thanks to Amanda Lepre and the Descendants of Erdrick for permission to use their music.
And more thanks to the ever-delicious Dwayne Bullock for our wonderful graphic artist for creating our awesome Slime Time art and logo. For a Slime Time t-shirt featuring Dwayne's art, check out the link in the show notes.
Please like, subscribe, and write a review for the podcast.
This is the Dragon Quest Slime Time, sliming off.
This is Gertrude for Slime Time, reminding you all that you must complete your adventure.